Okay, good evening, everybody. Today is Monday, November 24th, 2025, just a couple days before Thanksgiving. Wish everybody an early happy Thanksgiving and, of course, an early Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Holidays. It's that time of the year, and I think we have a lot to be thankful for, a lot to celebrate, even with some challenging issues facing our country and so forth. Anyway, our topic tonight is foil, the whole process of foiling, and specifically foiling the town of Hempstead. So we'll get into what a foil is, but we've got several guests with us tonight, and I'm going to bring them on to the stage right now. So let's just do that.
Hello.
Okay, hello everybody. Good evening.
Hey, Ray.
All right, thank you.
We have a full house tonight. You can see the names: Valerie, Amanda, Diane, Allison, Danielle. Thank you for joining tonight. I was just saying that our topic tonight on this week of Thanksgiving, of course, is to be thankful. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. But besides that, we're here tonight to talk about foils and what they are, and specifically as they relate to the town of Hempstead. I'll mention a little bit about the foil that I started and some of the foils that you guys have started as well. Maybe we can get into that. So I'll tell you what I know the foil process to be, and I think Allison is an expert on this, so she can kind of enlighten me and all of us if I've got it wrong. But I believe the foil process is a process by which any resident can seek to understand their government, whether it's on a local level or higher than that. And there are certain uh, rights that we have as citizens, as taxpayers, that is supposed to foster transparency. And whatever those questions might be, the municipality has an obligation to answer them. And when an answer is not readily available, because you can understand there could be any number of reasons why they might not have information at their instant disposal, but they should be able to get back to us within a timely fashion. And I think many of us on this podcast are saying that we have questions as to why that's not occurring locally in the town of Hempstead. So I'll start off tonight by saying that I had a very, generic question several months ago. I was just curious. Town of Hempstead is the largest township in the United States, as many of us know, as we all know. And I was just curious, who has the right to take a town car home? So a car that's owned by the town of Hempstead. I just wanted to know which employees have that ability to take it home. I wasn't looking for any particular answer, left or right. I just wanted to know what the answer was, and I was kind of surprised to find out that they pushed it back. They gave me a response that said that they couldn't answer it right away, and they pushed it back from August until I think early October, and then from October past the election to the end of November, and then I received something that said they're not going to get back to me until December. I'm sorry, until January of 2026. But I noticed that the form is all the same. It doesn't feel like they're really working on it. I could be wrong. Allison, did I get the process right? Is this what the FOIL process is all about?
Yeah, for the most part, the only clarification I'll make is that through FOIL, we're requesting records, right? So we don't want to ask questions, we want to ask for records. So, in your case, depending on how you worded it, and I mean, there's no
Yeah.
excuse for the extensions that they've given on this, right? In theory, the documentation that you're looking for to show what employees have these cars should be in a database, and you should be able to get it like that, right? I mean, this is not 1996 where everything is paper based.
Right,
And
right.
that was an exception, or an exemption rather, that agencies used to use all the time. Well, I can't give it to you right now. I have to go and I have to look through all the paperwork. I mean, I've done that myself, but I mean, actually I had to go and I had to look through files and documents and boxes to find responsive records, but that's no longer the case anymore. So the fact that um, these exceptions that they're throwing out, or these extensions on how long they need to find these records, it's really just inadequate, and they are constructive denials, right? So when they say, oh, we can't, we need another 30 days, they're denying you records, and we can appeal, and I think that's what we should be doing.
Allison, I thank you for that. I did a terrible job not introducing you correctly. If you don't mind, just share a little bit about your background in this process and how you know it so well, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. So I was actually a records management officer at a state agency for 8 years. So I worked on the other side of FOIL. So I know how to play these games. And I know that that's exactly what they're doing. They're playing these games. And these games are winnable. We can do it. But, it takes work because unfortunately, the way that the Freedom of Information law is written, there are few repercussions for agencies who don't supply these records in a timely manner. But not to say that there aren't, tools and avenues that we can take. So, step one is in your case, Ray, like I said, this is a constructive denial by not providing you with these records in a timely manner. So step one is you appeal, and then they'll say, well, we really don't care. And then you have to go to court. You have to file what's called an Article 78. So there are tools in our arsenal to help.
Allison, is part of the strategy, and Amanda and everybody, you guys will chime in as well. But do you think is there a strategy in play to sort of like tire out the resident to the point where you just kind of forget that you submitted this FOIL request and life gets busy and kids and this and that?
Yeah.
Do you just kind of like forget about it? I mean, I know I got an email from them. I didn't respond. I will, but is that the hope that we kind of forget about it at some point?
Yeah, that's exactly the hope. So I was telling Valerie the other day that that's what we would hope for, right? And it was really only the requesters who were like really the squeaky wheels that would really ever get their records, because people just don't, they, like you said, they forget or they just don't want to put up the fight.
Yeah. Amanda,
Ray.
what was your experience with the FOIL
Wait, wait, wait,
process?
wait, wait, wait. I'm so sorry to interject, Ray. I'm sorry to interrupt you guys, but this is pertinent to your FOIL request because I have a theory. I could be wrong. However, in 2020, so you have to remember, Clavin ran against Laura Gillen in 2019. Part of his platform was that he was going to eliminate some of the government take-home vehicles. This is an article on CBS. I can send it to you. Anyway, long story short, in 2020, February, he said he is cutting his budget and scaling back perks like take-home vehicles. The keys to over 40 cars and trucks have been turned in, eliminating take-home vehicles for commissioners, department heads, and deputies, Donald Clavin said. So my theory is that he did that, he ran on that, he did it, and then I don't know when it might have been undone, but I think that they're delaying you because they don't want you to find out and the public to find out that either he undid it or Ferretti undid it. But even if Clavin undid it, I think Ferretti is still doing it, right? So this is information that I think the common thread is that if the public knew, it would have actually helped Ferretti's opponent, Joe Schnablo. And I think that's a very common thread with a lot of our outstanding foils.
I thank you, Val. And I was going to say, and please, anybody who wants to chime in, please feel free to just raise your hand physically or on the thing on this, however you want to chime in. But, the thing about the cars is that I thought that it's something that they should have readily available because I imagine that for insurance purposes, security purposes, any number of reasons, at any moment's notice that they should know where their vehicles are, right? You could imagine a situation where, God forbid, a town-owned vehicle was involved in some sort of an accident. I think the first question that the carrier, I'm not in the insurance business, but anyone who's lived life understands that the first question that an insurance carrier will ask is, well, who was driving the car and did they have authority to drive the car? So if that's going to be the question that they would ask in the event of an accident, then somebody in town government, probably multiple people, would know at this exact moment in time who has a company car at home. And that's before we get into the political part of it, like as to whether they should or shouldn't have a car. That's the debate. But why don't we just start off with who has one? What are they hiding? Carl, please, you wanted to say something.
Okay, I got you on my mic. So basically, the way it always worked, Nassau County as well as the town of Hempstead, all department commissioners usually have a take-home vehicle. and their deputies. It depending on like public safety, I believe their supervisors may have a take-home vehicle. The building department, the one I know because it's around the corner from me. He's one of the building inspectors has a take-home car because the town of Hempstead on the side of it, because I believe he goes right from home to do whatever. So mostly you'll see the parks department supervisors, but it's mostly the people in charge will all have a vehicle, or they'll farm it out to,
Right. But like Carl, like and there is. Listen, I won't deny there is a political aspect. I think many of us feel as though the town of Hempstead is not run efficiently. But before we even get into the political aspect of it, like you consider the previous supervisor. My question is, I guess the second part of my FOIL request would have been to try to figure out, did the former town supervisor who was given essentially a no-show job, did he also get the privilege of having a vehicle as well? I'm just curious as a taxpayer,
it
and
depended
so
what
as
his job title was.
right, but like
That's how they
you know,
work it usually, right? The way they always work it is they'll have a I forgot who, they don't have a general services, but I think public safety is the one that is responsible for the vehicles, who gets them. So they usually have, because everyone's supposed to know which vehicles. Some of them have lights and sirens in them, so you have to be aware of that too. So mostly it's usually just people that don't need them during the day. They take them home because it's part of the privilege of having that specific job. But
well, I just want to jump in here and thank you,
I'm
Carl.
sorry. I'm so
In my
sorry.
opinion,
Diane, I'm so sorry. Ray, Felix is trying to get in here. I don't know. He says that he's on here.
Oh.
If you can let him in, that would be great. Sorry,
I
Diane.
would love to let Felix in. I just don't know where he is.
he may know better than I would.
so I'll just continue. In terms of what
Hi,
Don
Felix.
Clavin
Welcome.
did, which was
Hello.
admirable, none of these people should have cars. I'm sorry. Am I the only one that feels that way in this economy and with the taxes we pay?
No, I
And,
feel that way too. I agree.
So I understand that they have them. They should not have them. And I think that's why Don Clavin made that effort to cut back budgets and say, you know what, just like the rest of us, drive your own car. I understand if it's for business during the day to come into work, if you have to leave, but that was not the case for years. I know that even with the animal shelter, there were at least a half a dozen people that went home and they drove around all day long with town vehicles that we were paying for and the fuel as well. So, that's.
I do believe certain positions require a 24-hour car. Do all? No. There's always the county has the same problem. They do the same thing. Certain positions, there are people that are on call and need to respond.
But what, Carl and Diane, Diane, I agree with you completely. I mean, who really needs a town car?
What are we paying for the? It's what else would they like? I've seen some of these.
There's gas and there's all kinds of stuff.
No,
but
it comes down. It's more than that. A lot of it comes down to insurance purposes. I'll give you an example. I'll use the town of Hempstead as the perfect example. I'm the commissioner of public safety, and something happens, and I'm paged to respond to an incident, and I'm in my car and I crash. Then the town becomes liable. Now, if I'm in a vehicle with lights and sirens that is provided by the town of Hempstead, the town is then indemnified because I was given a vehicle to respond because I'm told I have to be on 24-hour.
Yeah, I know that there are
regardless of that, Carl, and I'm so sorry to interrupt again. I don't know who I'm interrupting, but regardless of that, I think that we can all agree that the information is owed to the public. That's the bottom line.
The information, right, Allison? I mean, the point is that they owe us this information.
And that's what this is really all about.
Right. Because I agree with you. Dan. But the question as to whether or not this person or that person, maybe you're right, Carl. Maybe there's a reason why somebody should have a tower. You imagine that this is a large town. The Department of Buildings, somebody, whatever it might be, they might, for lack of a better word, deserve a car, need a car. But the process by which they're trying to hide or not disclose this information, I think, is why we're all here tonight. So, Allison, what is we've got this denial. I've got this denial. What am I going to do? I'm not going to go sue the town tomorrow, am I? Should I do that? What's the next step?
So here's what I'm thinking. There really are no exemptions that apply here, right? There's nothing that the town can claim to withhold these records. It's not personal privacy, it's not trade secret, none of that. These are records that you are entitled to. The fact that they keep delaying response, again, is a constructive denial. This is something that they should have given you already. And it's very clear that they're just pushing back in hopes that you go away. So the next step, if you haven't already done so, is to appeal this as a constructive denial. And I sent Val some language for her request that we could really all use. I mean, we can cookie cutter it, but basically it talks about, it says, I made the request on this date. I didn't get a response. The records are still pending. This is a constructive denial. And now through FOIL, agencies are required to send all appeals to the Committee on Open Government, which is new. That was not the case when I was doing it. So that will help too. So if we all kind of do it, right, then maybe they will respond with some type of if they were smart, they'd give you something, right? And if they were smart, they'd give you something and maybe even try to redact it. Not that the redactions would be legal probably, but give you something to make you go away. They're not even trying to do that.
Right.
Ray, if I may, I'm having an issue with a FOIL right now with the town of Hempstead. I'm library trustee in Franklin Square, and across from our library is a town lot. I come to find out that it is not a town lot. It is a special it's a special parking lot district that pays special taxes to maintain it within my community of Franklin Square. Found this out arbitrarily. I started asking questions because we needed to get it repaired. Come to find out, it has to go before the town board, but they didn't want to tell me who was responsible to pay for it. It took me 3 months. Every 10 days, I sent an email. I sent it on my phone. I sent an email. I harassed them for 4 months before I finally got information that from the county, because the town kept pushing it, that was on, they got off of, it was a .text file, so it came from microfiche and everything else. The town refused. They just kept passing the buck. But my thing to you is persistence. You nag them every day if you have to, every other day. It's 10 days, it's 5 days.
But Carl, I hear you, but it's don't you think that in 2025, and Felix, please chime in when you want, but don't you think we can do that, and those are the little inside game about how we get a response. It should be better than this, right? Everyone claiming they want transparent government, and Clavin said it, and Freddie saying whatever it takes. I mean, it should be better than that, right? I mean, we should have something. I could set up a ChatGPT thing right now to send an email every day to the town, but you would imagine that there should be some level of accountability, right, Carl?
They should be, but they don't want to be because it's all smoke and mirrors. They say one thing and do another because ultimately the only way they continue this farce is to wear people out. That's the end game. You'll get tired. You'll move on to another shiny object. Persistence has always been, and I forgot who said it. Persistence and being the squeaky wheel is the only way. Because when I would call Tommy Muscarella's office, and the woman in his office would start reading from the script, and I would say, "Stop! Close the script." Yeah. What you're answering to me is not the question I'm asking. Yeah. So listen first, because they have a set way of doing things, and it's so been entrenched and ingrained for decades and decades and decades. But it should be. Nothing is computerized. Everything is paper because they know it delays things.
Well, thank you for that, Carl, and Felix. Thank you for joining.
There is an answer.
Felix, let me just say something on behalf of every single town of Hempstead taxpayer, and on behalf of maybe even Nassau County taxpayers, let me thank you, Felix Procacci, for everything that you do, okay, and have done.
Bigger than that, around the country.
That too, around the country, right? Thank you, Val. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
No.
Listen, Felix, you kind of really inspire all of us. Inspire me. I mean, you inspire all of us with your work, and to know the level of detail that nobody else knows this stuff better. I mean, Allison's an expert. You're an expert. I give you guys all the credit in the world. Felix, I give you all the credit for showing up at those
Thank
meetings
you.
the way you did for all these years. And thank you, because that lawsuit, as far as I understand it, had everything to do with you, and I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. There is an answer.
Really,
There
really
is,
quick. Sorry, Felix. I love you. I'm so sorry. I'm just going to jump in because I want to also make mention that reporters, advocates, and also attorneys also refer to Felix's website all the time. And they call him, and we call him, I call him. And his website is justthefactsmedia.com. So I need to plug that because he
Thank
does
you.
all of this out of his passion for government transparency. Thank you, Felix.
Thank you. One thing I was told by the Committee on Open Government that requirement that all appeal information be sent to the Committee on Open Government has been in the law since 1978, since the beginning. That's what they told me. I never verified that. But there is an answer to all you guys' problem to get the solution. And I did go to the Court of Appeals because I challenged that decision, because I said they did not send the FOIL appeals to the Committee on Open Government. And the town argued that I didn't have standing, that the Committee on Open Government had standing. It went to the appellate division. The appellate division basically wrote nothing. I sent the information to Allison just before I came here about 45 minutes ago. It has the entire case. Then I appealed it. I asked for leave to appeal to the Court of Appeals, and they denied me leave to appeal. Then I asked to re-argue that, and they denied that. But the thing is, if you read the case, and I sent it all to Allison, if you read the case, they made no reason for that, because the town said the Committee on Open Government had standing to enforce that provision, because I was challenging that provision. I wanted to force them to send the appeal to the Committee on Open Government. The town claimed that I didn't have standing. And Randy Sumarba, the judge, a Democratic judge, if you read the case, all they did was copy the motion to dismiss by the town into the decision without argument, without explanation. The appellate division did even worse. All they did was refer to the lower court's ruling and said I didn't have standing based on a 1954 insurance law case. That, by the way, went to the Court of Appeals, where the Guardian Insurance did get leave to appeal. So they didn't even rule on this case based on the merits. And the solution is this. And I'm working right now with Senator Canzoni's office. They're talking to me. I don't know if they're going to do anything, but the Democrats on this call here could go to Ms. Kel Szalage's office, because they gave me the cold shoulder. They wouldn't even discuss it with me. Elise Canzoni's office, I've been talking to them every few weeks for an hour about this, to get legislation. And get this legislation to fix this is so simple. All it's going to do is one sentence at the end that said every provision of FOIL is subject to judicial review by an Article 78. Shouldn't be necessary, because all it's saying is the law is the law. Because the Article 78 already says that any violation by a body or officer, you can file an Article 78. And this was a violation by a body or an officer who didn't send the FOIL appeal. But the courts are so corrupt. They issued this corrupt decision, which I'll share this with everybody on, I don't know if I have everybody's email, but I'll share the press release I put out December 18th of last year. And I sent it to a dozen news outlets. Nobody will write the story. This is the answer. If you could enforce sending the appeals to the Committee on Open Government, if you can enforce that by Article 78, so that means when you file your FOIL request and they don't respond within 20 business days, and you do the appeal and they don't respond within 10 business days, now you could file an Article 78 at that point. And the committee, it would be recorded by the Committee on Open Government, and then you could foil those records, and they always give you that, and that record could be made public. So the town of Hempstead, the school districts, the villages, anyone who doesn't respond to foils, they'll have demerits, public demerits. Right now, I'm in the case right now where the court on the first try, you know what they did? They ruled that the town should file a motion to dismiss without ruling on any of the merits of the case. Then I filed for summary judgment. And then he files the court, Judge Cousins, he made up some case that's not even relevant. And he says, this is a summary judgment, but it's an Article 78. So he then ruled that the town was supposed to give unredacted records to the court, not to me, but to the court. They failed to give it to the judge. Then I filed a motion for contempt. And then the court, Judge Cousins, dismissed my motion for contempt without prejudice, meaning I could bring it back, and then watered down his own order, saying they have to give me redacted records. And then after they gave me redacted records, I told the court that these were inaccurate. Also, you need the unredacted records to see if what they redacted is truly necessary to redact. And the court never made a ruling. Now I have to submit another motion for contempt. And each time I make a motion, it costs me $65, plus a lot of my time. The answer to the problem is, if you know Mikkel Salage, go to her office, call her up and tell her to add that provision of law at that sentence at the end of FOIL, and it's the same sentence at the end of the open meetings law. It says, if you violate any of these provisions, you could file an Article 78. For some reason, all the courts are interpreting, unless you get a denial, you can't file an Article 78. There's a provision in FOIL that says if they willfully delay, giving you documents, which they did in my other case, that was the one that went to the Court of Appeals. There was one page, and they gave it to me 13 months later. So they willfully withheld it, but the court did nothing. This is the problem. If you could get the legislators to introduce that legislation, and who's going to vote against it? Because all it's saying is that every provision needs to be enforced.
Felix, let me
would be the answer to everybody's problem here. If we could get that done, that's just that one little thing, and it's minuscule.
And thank you for that. And I think we'll follow your advice on that. But just to zoom out for a moment, Felix, Allison, everybody, Val, everybody chime in on this. Diane, the point here is that I don't know what everyone's political persuasion is on this call. I can guess. I mean, I know some of you. But the point here is that what we're fighting for, we're advocating for, is transparency, right? So we don't necessarily know which direction we're going to go once we get information, but getting the information itself is the question of the day, right? That's the process by which we FOIL. So when we get that information, what we do with it and how we approach it and how we interpret it, that's up to us. But we're all fighting for the same things here. Like, why is the town not providing us with this information? What are they hiding, right?
Well, I think you have to take a step backwards. The courts are enforcing the town's non-compliance. That's the problem. The court is enforcing their non-compliance.
And I get that problem. Can we go backwards for 1 second? Can we just take one step back?
Sure.
Because I think that there are a lot of people, I think we're assuming a lot. There are a lot of people who have never sent a FOIL, and they may not know what a FOIL is. So I just kind of want to go backwards for 1 second. I printed this out. I just want to read this really quickly. The importance of the Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, in the state of New York, as Allison taught me, it's FOIL, the Freedom of Information Law. Government transparency allows the public to see how decisions are made. It ensures that records, data, and communications are not hidden from citizens. Accountability of public officials. FOIL holds elected and appointed officials responsible for their actions. It deters misconduct by increasing public visibility. Public oversight. Citizens, journalists, and watchdog groups, that's what I consider us to be, right? Myself, Diane, Allison, Amanda, we're doing that. Watchdog, where was I? Sorry, hold on one second. Oh, here we go. Watchdog groups can review government activity, helps expose corruption, waste, fraud, and abuse. I have to take the second to mention that the town of Hempstead was recently found in contempt regarding foils specifically. Number 4, empowering citizens. FOIL gives people the information needed to advocate for change, enables the public to participate in policy making with accurate facts. Protecting democracy. An informed public is the foundation of a functioning democracy. FOIL ensures that power remains with the people, not behind closed doors. Ensuring fairness and justice. FOIL can reveal procedural issues, discrimination, or mishandling of cases. It strengthens civil rights by ensuring transparency in enforcement and enhancing trust in government. Openness builds confidence between the public and their institutions. Lack of transparency erodes trust and leads to suspicion. And supporting journalists and researchers. We're the researchers. FOIL provides essential information for investigative reporting, helps create accurate, fact-based journalism and research. And I just am going to mention, if I can, my favorite FOIL right now in this moment is on August 7th. I just appealed this, okay? Because it's bullshit. I'm being denied. It's ridiculous. Okay, just hear me out. On August 7th, I requested a copy of former supervisor Donald Clavin's current job description and salary. That was 2 days after he resigned from the town as supervisor and was immediately granted a new position. So on September 5th, which was my original due date, the records access officer issued a notice stating that the request cannot be accommodated within the 20 business day period. Here's what's funny about this, okay? In between that time, my FOIL request and the original deadline, his job description and salary was made public by Newsday as well as the New York Post, okay? And everyone knew as soon as it was made public, $179,000 plus and change, his exact salary that he was earning as supervisor, and they were saying that he was transferred to a no-show job in the planning and economic development department to a location that has been shuttered for 5 years. So the information was public. Clavin resigned, and they still denied my FOIL and said the department needed more time to get me the information. Now here's what's next. The new deadline was October 20th. And on October 20th, they extended me again, now to December 5th, for information that has already been made public in August. This is the kind of gamesmanship, the shenanigans, and I'm going to call it out what it is. It is bullshit, okay? Because not only does everybody already have the information and it's an insult to our intelligence, but now, okay, so I submit my my appeal. And then the next step, they're not going to finally give me the information that's already been made public, is going to be a court filing in Article 78, which is going to cost me money. I'm going to probably have to fly into New York, get a hotel room, get a lawyer, etc., which I'll be reimbursed for my court fees. But it is just such an insult to the intelligence of us, because we all know what happened, right? We all know the truth already, but they still won't give it to us. And I am so fed up. I'm so sick and tired. This is just one example. I have many more, but I don't want to dominate the whole night. So I'll just say that I'm sick and tired of it, but I am not going away because you know what? That's what they want. And when they say you can't fight City Hall, this is what they're talking about. And I will tell you this, they don't know me. Clearly, they have not met me. Okay. They don't get me. I don't know what it is. They don't get us, but we're not going away. So screw you, Town of Hempstead.
And vote, and vote,
I want to
and
chime in
vote
again
Joe.
because the answer.
Yeah, I do want to.
The answer to the problem is to make sure that every provision, because the the appellate division said I didn't have standing based on a 1954 law, an insurance law that had nothing to do with FOIL. This is the highest it's ever gone to ever. This case. This is a precedent now. This is like abortion being approved by the Supreme Court. This went as high in the state court as I can't go any higher. If we don't get that provision, because the courts do not recognize, first of all, they don't recognize the fact that if they willfully delay your FOIL request, that's a violation. They could get 15 days in jail for that. The courts don't recognize that. It's written in, if you read FOIL, I think it's number 89.9 or something. It's very clear. And I claimed that in my recent FOIL request because I could see that they willfully delayed it. The court didn't even address it. They asked them to make a motion to dismiss. Unless you fix that problem, the court problem, you could do whatever you want to. The town knows the court has their back. That unless
Felix, we're going to work on
Well,
that now.
And that's what I wanted to
Yeah,
say.
we gotta go to. I think you need to work because Miguel Salage has the most unprofessional office in the world.
Okay, so
And
I think
I'll tell you, if we all call her office and tell her we need
Felix,
this, then
so-
you
Danielle,
can fix the problem.
Danielle, go ahead. Danielle.
I really think that and I think everyone's kind of saying it, but and we can't give up. Yes, keep foiling, appeal, et cetera, et cetera. We can change the law, but this is an enforcement problem for people that are above the law. These are people that we have elected that feel they can do whatever they want. And guess what? They can, because this man that is currently our supervisor was illegally appointed, found guilty in court, held in contempt that there's hearings for this. And what is happening? He still got elected. He's still out there. He's still doing the same thing. We can share story after story after story of them usurping the law, breaking the law over and over and over, and they protect themselves. I'm obviously biased, but the only way to solve this problem maybe is to vote them out. We need to make a movement. We need to be coming together and letting our elected officials that not only are we going to keep trying to hold you to the law, but we're going to tell you you cannot represent us anymore if you can't follow the laws you are there to represent.
Danielle,
there needs to be transparency and accountability in government. And yet the people keep reelecting the same people that are breaking these laws over and over and over again. So
Danielle,
more
Felix,
needs to happen.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Diane, Felix, Danielle, anybody, Val, the point here is that the town of Hempstead has a FOIL department. There's a whole department that's allocated for this purpose, right, Allison? This is not just one or two people.
There are at least 70 people. I can pull up the exact number, or Felix can, based on his spreadsheet that he foils every year for every single department and how many employees are in there and their salaries and job titles.
Right.
There are at least 70 in that town clerk department.
It's a massive, this isn't like you're asking one person to do a billion different things. You have a whole department in the town's largest
It
township.
doesn't really work that way. The way it works is the point of contact is the town clerk's office. But if I'm requesting a building department issue, Marie Jerome or Yadira supposed to forward that FOIL to the building department.
Yeah.
Every FOIL, and this came up during the Gillen administration because she brought that out in public. Every FOIL, when you send it to Marie Jerome or Yadira Wells, it goes directly to the town attorney's office. When they're appealing it, all you're doing is appealing something that the town attorney already denied. The building
Felix.
department is not denying
you.
your FOIL. The town attorney's office is doing it. And even if
Thank
you
you.
elect a supervisor, you're not going to get rid of the town attorney unless you get a majority of the board who's going to agree with that. You need to, they know they could break the law because the courts are the police officers and they're letting them, the court, the judges. Look, there was 12 judges involved in my case. It was the lower court, Randy Sumarba, 4 appellate court judges, and 7 court of appeal judges who unanimously said I didn't have standing, but they never said, and they also agreed with the lower court's decision, which said the court, the Committee on Open Government had standing, and the Committee on Open Government says they have, which is written in law, they do not have any ability to bring a lawsuit. They have no enforcement powers. So the enforcement power is in me by the letter of the law, but they're not abiding by it. That's why I says FOIL has to be changed with the same provision, the last sentence of the open meetings law, whereby every provision should be subject to Article 78. So even if you're not denied, but if they willfully delay, you should be able to file an Article 78 before you get that constructive denial, because that's written in the law. If they fail to send a FOIL appeal to the Committee on Open Government, you should be able to sue right then and there. And they would get a demerit, and that would become a public information where they'll become humiliated because the Committee on Open Government gets those records. If you ask for all the records of all the municipalities in New York State who send FOIL appeals to them, they'll give it to you within 3 days. Unreal, a week at most. You never get a FOIL response that fast. But the town of Hempstead is not on that list ever because they don't send the FOIL appeals because they know I lost in court. The Court of Appeals is corrupt, including our own Madeline Singus. She was along with all 7. They don't say who voted, but it was unanimous. They didn't say anyone dissented. 4 appellate court judges, 1 Republican, 3 Democrats. They all had no reason. I implore you to read my case. Read the decision. It's very simple. The appellate court decision. They say nothing.
I'm sorry.
They say nothing. It's a precedent.
Yeah.
Precedent.
Sorry to interrupt you,
Thank you,
Felix.
Felix.
We can get back to you, but please note Amanda has to leave shortly. So she just put that in the comments over there. Can you give her a chance to
Yeah,
speak?
Amanda, please, by all means, and we'll read Boris's comment. Amanda, go ahead.
Oh, well, I have several FOILs out. The last 5 were delayed into December and January, and then 3 of them. So I'm an animal advocate. Most of my FOILs have to do with the shelter and animals, and I'm very specific with my FOILs. It has an animal ID, and if there's an incident, there's a date. I'll get a reply that they're asking for the animal ID and the date. I'm like, it's in there. Like there's not anything else I can send you. So I call and they tell me that they have a computer system. They put the animal ID in and the date, and it runs through a database. Is that right, Allison? I mean, I don't know,
Yeah, it's hard for me to say.
That's right. I foiled the whole database years ago.
Yeah,
I got the whole database for free.
So all of mine have been delayed in some way, shape, and form. I haven't got an outright denial, but my next date would be December 7th.
Amanda,
See, you should be able to sue because they're willfully delaying it. That you can't do that. If you went to court saying that now, even though there's a provision in FOIL, the courts will rule against you right now. That's why
Allison,
that provision needs to be added.
Allison, what do you think about that?
I was just going to ask Amanda, when they are delaying their responses, are they giving you any type of reason? See, that's part of the law. This is another part that the town of Hempstead misses on any request that I've made, that Valerie has made.
The court misses it too.
They're just, you can't do that. You have to give a reasonable explanation. When it was my role, we had to say, so we used to work very closely with Bob Freeman. He's no longer with the Committee on Open Government for some, other reasons, but he would always say you have to give a good reason. So we would say, okay, it's holiday time and we're short staffed or our database is down. Like, you can't just say nothing. And that's what they do all the time. That's against the law. So that is in itself a constructive denial, which means that you, Amanda, can appeal. As soon as those 20 business days come and go and they don't have your records for you and they say, we need another 30 days. If they don't tell you why, then that's it.
Allison,
The court doesn't respect that.
Wait, hold on, Phyllis. Allison and Amanda.
Yes.
Amanda sent me 5 foils that she has submitted and are being delayed to January, December, whatever. And every single one, just like ours, simply states, per the department, they don't list the department, they need additional time to satisfy this request. Copy paste for all of her foils and pretty much all of mine also.
I got the same thing from you. I foiled the January 5th stuff too, just like you did, Valerie. They're going to give it to me January 6th.
Well, they call it, like it's a lot of volume. It could be one piece of paper. I just want to say something. Of course, I thank everyone here, but especially you, Amanda. I don't know, we didn't really get into backgrounds here, but Amanda got involved many months ago. It was, I believe, with the shipment of the 4 dogs from Hempstead, and she's out of state. And it's just remarkable to me as I sit here and watch her so involved and foiling now and holding them accountable, that even people that are not in the town of Hempstead have been so active, especially related to the animals at the shelter and involved. And, thank you, Amanda.
Thank you, Amanda. Yes, you are amazing.
And one thing that I think is really, really important, at least I'd like to point out, is that with the people watching too, who are also very valuable, please continue to foil. Don't be discouraged. There's a lot of conversation here about, what's going on, but this is their point. Their point is to make the public go away, because the thing that they fear the most, and what Joe Schnabel was offering, was transparency, which is why we have to get him elected. But besides that point, please continue to foil and reach out to any of us if you need help. If you're listening in, hold them to task. And I have to tell you that the town of Hempstead does not look forward to people filing Article 78. They'll take it to the last, breath, and they normally will provide much of the information. But I do encourage everyone, and I'll be doing it myself. And we have to have a club, Article 78 club, and we'll all join it. Because I'm noticing, especially with Ferretti and with his campaign, I've never seen these lengths of delays before. And I'm talking 25 years. So in the past year, whenever he started his campaign, all of a sudden, much of this information, which could have been used for Joe's campaign, is still delayed. I mean, I have foils still out from April that are asking for December. So they need to get hit hard with Article 78. They're not going to like it because, again, they'll do anything they can really to provide it. But I think that's the avenue. And again, please continue to foil if you're out there, or if you want to learn how to foil. Val had on her Pet Professionals, had Allison on one day and was teaching people how to do it. And that's how you hold government accountable, because the thing they fear most is transparency.
Well,
Dan,
the public doesn't know about these foils. It doesn't really have enough bang for the buck. When I wanted to foil, I wanted to file the Article 78 when they appointed Ferretti, but I told Joe to do it. I kept on sending every few days to file the Article 78 because I know if I filed it, the press wouldn't even cover me. I knew if he did it, then it would get covered. That's why you need to amplify this, because look, no reporter so far, I've sent it to a dozen news outlets, have reported this precedent-setting decision by the Court of Appeals and the highest courts in this state have not ruled on have not wrote a story about it. I sent News 12, News 2, News Channel 4.
Well, that is why.
Newsday.
Yeah,
allies,
that is why Joe
everybody.
is a tremendous,
But,
you
but
know,
that's what's really needed. And we need to get the legislator, some legislator, if you know legislator, if Carl could lean on Mikel Salage to add that provision to the end of FOIL, because that would give us the ability to file an Article 78 if they delay. If they
we're going to get it
willfully
done.
delay a
Felix,
FOIL request, that's what you want.
We are going to get that
We
done.
can't get that. If we
Now
get that
we all
provision,
know.
you could FOIL right now. You could be able to FOIL because they're giving an unreasonable date without a reason. Right now, the judge will throw it and dismiss your case. If you had that provision, you would solve all your problems that everyone's complaining about here would be solved.
Allison, let me ask you a question, and thank you, everybody. We get into the weeds about the Article 78 and some of the details about how these things work. Allison, let me ask you a general question. For people watching at home or, wherever they might be, the question I have is, what is not foilable? So let's just say I'm a resident and I'm curious about my street. I think I know somebody or maybe one or two people on my street. If they're curious about what has been done about, a street repaint. What is not foilable and what is foilable? Are there some things that the average resident should use foil for and that they can't use foil for? Just kind of give us a little indication as to what we should foil and what we shouldn't foil.
Sure, yeah. So first of all, we want to always foil records, right? We want to ask for records. So we don't want to ask questions because it's a very common response, not necessarily for the town of Hempstead, but for agencies to say, well, you've asked a question, you didn't ask for a record, goodbye, and then you're shut down. So step one, make sure you ask for a record. And if you're not sure what type of record, ask for a few records. And if they say they don't have them, try again and see if you can, figure out the type of record that would have the information that you're looking for. So that's step one, request a record. Then there are like 8 exceptions that, or exemptions rather, that agencies can use to withhold records. So some examples would be personal privacy. So, right, if we're talking about someone in the public, their address, coupled with some personal information in a database, you might not get that. They would withhold that as personal information, right? There's intra-agency materials that are within the agency, and it has to do with the work of the agency and may not be public knowledge. There's intra-agency, one agency to another agency, they may withhold that. There's trade secrets. So what I could do is I can share so that the audience understands a bit more about FOIL, what the exceptions are, the exemptions are, how to actually make a FOIL request. All of that information is on the Committee on Open Government website. There's templates on, again, how to make the request and then the law. And I could pop in the chat here where you would find those exceptions to what you can get. And then, of course, I'm always available. I'm happy to help anybody who is trying to make a request. I'm happy to help anyone who receives a denial or can't seem to figure out the type of record. I'm readily available for that. No charge.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you.
Of course.
Ray, let me tell you something. Allison has been one of my our secret weapons. Not so secret anymore, but she helped me draft my appeals, if you will. But one of the things that I think I would like to also make clear is that there were several FOILs submitted way back during campaign season that I believe very strongly, had we gotten the information, it would have been helpful to Joe Shinablo's campaign. One of them, I'll just mention, is that I foiled for specifically any and all claim notices, invoices, and records pertaining to the expenses associated with any and all promotional marketing materials with John Ferretti's name on them. Now, what prompted this foil is that, we saw through photo ops all over the place that although John Ferretti was illegally appointed in August, as found by a court of law, there were tons of tables and stands in all of these community events where they handed out to the public, you know, pens, pencils, tchotchkes galore, knapsacks, every single thing had his name on it. I actually am thinking about starting a pool because I'm thinking like, I don't want to have to pay for an Article 78, which is probably what it's going to come down to. And I'm just thinking like, let's get some guesses out there. Like how much do you think he spent, you know, on these, your money, by the way, taxpayer funded dollars? Was it 1,000? Was it 5,000, 10,000, 100,000? Just curious. But anyway, the point is that this information, and I know this for a fact, as a small business owner or as anyone who has ever ordered off of Amazon or whatever, you can find this in minutes, right? So my original request for this information is dated September 7th, 2 days after he was appointed illegally, by the way. The extension, the original extension, I was supposed to get this information on October 7th, 2025, which would have been, you know, roughly a month before the actual election. And I really do think that if people saw and understood how much money of their money was being spent to put his name on everything, that could have swung votes. I believe that firmly. And I've spoken to a lot of people about it, and they believe that too. Anyway.
Well, no doubt. Look, he put himself in that position. That's how he barely got over the finish line. Joe Shinabolo would have left him in the dust had he not campaigned on the taxpayer dime for so many months. Right. So we all know that.
So then I was re-extended. I don't even know if that's a word, but I was extended again to November 20th, which is after the election. But oh, guess what? They extended me again to December 22nd. So I've already filed this appeal thanks to Allison and her help. But what I realize is that they will just extend us and delay us forever. You know why? Because this year is another election year. They don't want us to have this information. They don't want this information to be public.
Yeah. Val, Allison, let me ask you this question because you offered something and I just want to ask you this. So when people are thinking about foiling, should they reach out to you before they foil or after they foil? Should they reach out to you?
Oh, sorry.
Before.
I would say whatever helps, right? If you need some guidance on what to ask for, I'm certainly here to help. If you've already made a request and you're not getting anywhere, I mean, outside of, look, I can't do anything about these ridiculous timelines and this and their non-responsive.
But you could help with the defect initially, right? Like just to make sure that it's a request for a record and not request for, you know, hey, where is you can correct the defects before it goes in and it causes the endless delays, right? Maybe.
Sure. Yeah, I can think about what might not be releasable, let's say.
Allison, why don't you talk about the foil? Now, here's what's fun. Allison sent a foil, and obviously she knows her shit, right? She's like literally a former foil person who was on the opposite side. She was the person in charge of responding with records, right? So she knows how to phrase things, word things. She knows how to foil. She's like the foil queen. Allison, why don't you tell us about your foil experience with the town of Hempstead and how it took, 8 months?
Yeah, it took 8 months. And, you know, honestly, Val, I don't even remember the type of records that we were looking for in that case, but we were very specific. So I worked with Val and Diane on this. We were very specific. It was invoices. It was dates. I mean, there would be no way that a department or a record custodian could not find these records. And we knew that they existed. And they just kept extending. And then I got, because it was voluminous, and then I received like whatever it was, like 3 pieces of paper after 8 months or something like that. But then we didn't even need the documents anymore. But that's what they want, right? That's what they're hoping for, that we'll just kind of fall off and we'll forget about it. We won't need the records anymore. So my best advice is to sort of go with what Carl was saying earlier, which is make sure that you are keeping up with your request. When the 20 business days hits, it's tickled on your calendar, you're emailing them, where's my stuff? Don't let them think that you forgot. However, don't email them every day because like one of the rules is you don't want to piss off the record access officer. So don't be, too overbearing, but definitely keep up with those timelines. So
Chime in about that delay. When I filed my Article 78 in 2021, when they were already 6 months late with my records, they asked for a 30-day delay and the court gave it to them. I opposed it. Then they asked for another delay. They came to a Zoom call with the court clerk, not the judge, with nothing. After they asked for all this delay, and just to make the story short, this was August 2021. The court gave them until the end of January, first of mid-January, and then they asked for another 2 weeks till it came out to the end of January before I got my records. So the court sanctioned an 11th month delay on records. And in one case, one of the records was 1 page. And when I brought this fact to the Court of Appeals, and Allison could watch the video of me before the judges, and I brought up that was 1 page, they ignored that in the decision. That's a violation. They could go to jail for that, but the courts do not recognize these violations. So that's what the town is banking on. They know that you're just screaming at them all you want. You could file your Article 78, and the judge is going to give them the delay. The judge is going to violate the law, and you can't file an Article 78 against the judge. You got to change the law. So now when they don't send the FOIL appeal to the Committee on Open Government, you could file an Article 78 and get compensated for that. And there'll be an official record with the Committee on Open Government that they didn't send the appeal there. And now they'll be humiliated by the amount of times they violated the law. Right now, they make a motion to dismiss. They give you all your records, and if there's no record of them ever violating the law, they love it. They love it. They're willing to spend the money on the court. They don't care. They just want to delay your records, and the court sanctions that delay. So
hey, Felix, maybe,
well and good, but unless you change the law, it doesn't matter.
Maybe we need to stop having cross-endorsed judges, but that's another story. Allison, Jenny Nielsen asked a question I think is almost like the $1 million question or whatever they call it. What's a reasonable amount of time to expect a response?
So agencies have 5 business days to acknowledge your request, which is as simple as saying, hey, we got it. And then they have 20 business days thereafter to provide you a response. So not necessarily a record, but a response. So, ideally you want to get that record within the 20 business days, but they are able to say, okay, we have to extend it, but they have to give a reason. And then it all depends on the volume of records. So if you're asking about a reasonable timeline, it all depends on the volume of records, the format that the records are in. Again, we don't really see very much paper anymore. So, the format may not be relevant, but it depends on the record type, the format, how much work it takes to find the records. Are they on site? Are they off site? So, there is some variability around it. But again, that the law does say it's a 5 business day requirement to acknowledge your request, 20 business days thereafter to provide a response or records.
I'm just glad you didn't. I love do the 6-7 thing, 6-7.
Yeah, my daughter would be very proud.
Allison's amazing, and Jenny, for what it's worth, if you're going to submit a FOIL through the town of Hempstead specifically, the best part about it is that you instantly get an email with a receipt number and an acknowledgement. So the clock starts ticking right away. Not that it really matters, as evidenced by, all of these, crazy extended foils. I want to say this too. Oh, wait, is Aaron still here? Aaron Meyer, are you here? Aaron, oh, he left. Okay. It's okay. I want to say this. This is not new. This has been going on for years and years, right? And I think I should just highlight one other foil just to give people the opportunity to understand how ridiculous this foil department has been and still is. So I was even surprised because I looked back. And one of my favorite foils was about, I saw a woman who works at the shelter. She's still there. Back in 2016 or 17, Nancy Giras went to a Town of Hempstead board meeting, and she was voicing her dismay over the fact that the Town of Hempstead Animal Shelter did not have an in case of emergency or fire policy. Nobody knew what to do if there was anything significant going on. And she cited specifically concerns because you have to realize the Hempstead shelter takes in animal abuse cases, animal neglect cases, and sometimes the owners of those animals are hostile. They come in, they want to retrieve their animals back. There's no security, there's no plexiglass to separate them. And she cited that as a concern. She also cited the fact that there was across the street, there's a school. And recently during that time, someone showed up with a gun, a loaded gun. So she was advocating for an in case of emergency / fire policy. So out of curiosity, a couple of years later, I foiled to see if they had implemented that policy in case of emergency fire policy. Okay. Well, guess what? They delayed me. I appealed it. The FOIL officer at that time was Donald Durham. He even wrote in an email that if he didn't hear back, then that he was going to march into their office and find out what was going on. I was so frustrated that I actually sent my my FOIL request and everything, all of the emails to Felix. Felix then initiated his own request, same verbiage. Do you know how long it took for us to find out what we already knew, which was that the town didn't have an actual policy? They never instituted one. It took about 2.5 years. It's ridiculous.
And I don't think they have one now. I don't think there's
No, I
any
don't think so
policy.
either. We're gonna refoil it and we're gonna post it and everything else because but the point is this. I also feel you want to talk about revising the law. Yes, we need to revise this law. We need to make sure that there's some kind of enforcement. And by the way, we need to compensate people for their time. Because all of us on this call, if you've ever submitted a FOIL, Ray, you included, and then you've ever gone through, like, you get a delay, you're reading it, it takes you time to FOIL, period. It takes you time to appeal, period. It takes you time.
Well, yeah, they try to tire you out, right, Val? They try to tire you out.
That's correct, right. Fighting City Hall. And you know what? All of our time, I don't care who you are, what you do, I don't care if you're retired. We're taking time away from our family, our friends, our pets. We're taking time away from volunteer work. We're taking time out of our self-care. What the hell does that even mean? I don't know anymore. But all I know is that our time is valuable and we should be compensated for that too. And I am so sick and tired of these people sucking our time for absolutely no reason, no good reason, other than the fact that it's a game to them. And they get paid to play these games and try to deny us the information we are lawfully entitled to.
Well, they have a purpose. Their purpose is to block transparency. And again, the shortcut to that is to elect Joe Schnablo.
Right. Yes. And I should say that too more often. And I'm sorry, because vote Joe. And if Joe Schnablo doesn't run again this year, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself.
Well, there is a primary. There is a primary, I would assume, for this
Gotcha.
election, but we won't talk about that on this call. But there is a primary coming up as well, and that's really it. These people have completely convinced us. There's no surprise there under Mr. Ferretti. This is only going to get worse. I see what he's doing and not doing at the animal shelter already, and so I'm thankful for this group and for all of the groups that are shedding light on what's really going on in the town of Hempstead and their failure to offer any kind of transparent government. And so we'll just keep at it. And again, I'm just going to remind everyone to please continue to foil. If you haven't foiled, foil. Don't let this call be anything but encouraging, because this will happen. Transparency will happen, but it won't happen without the involvement of the public and the interest of the public and public outcry. And you have to remember too, when you foil documents, and I say this especially with Amanda so involved, it's important to document this, because at some point, and I won't talk about this on this call either, this particularly the animal shelter will be reviewed by an outside controller's office. There's no doubt that both fiscally and operationally, and it's going to be very important whether you're inquiring about an animal, whether you're foiling, whether you have a question, put it in writing. It's not good enough to call anymore, especially under Ferretti. Put everything in an email, and that is what I've been telling everyone, including foiling. Thanks again,
Well,
Ray,
Diana,
by the way.
Dan, thank you for everything you do. And Allison, as we're wrapping it up, I want to give you the last word. Let me ask you this question in closing, Allison. When it's done right, and when a resident or a taxpayer submits a FOIL, and what is the promise of FOIL? Like, you've dedicated so much of your life, your professional career, to this whole process. When it's done right, what does it look like? Is it transparency? Like, what is the end game that we're looking for? What do you see on your end?
Yeah,
Like,
when
what's the
it's done
promise of
right.
this?
That is the promise of transparency. You are entitled to this information that sits with government agencies, and it does a lot of good. So this aside, right, we have contractors that request public contracts so that they can make a fair bid and they can be awarded a job. I mean, we have job candidates that ask for salaries and job descriptions that, some of it's public, some of it, I mean, it's all public, but, some of it is out in the open. Some you'd have to request, and they're getting that information so that they know what type of salary they should agree to when they're taking jobs. It's can be a very good vehicle. It's unfortunate that the town of Hempstead plays these ridiculous games. Like in Valerie's story there, they should have said, hey, we don't have a record, and it would have died right there. It would not have been strung out for 2.5 years. Sorry, we don't have a policy, and just
Right, and then we
don't
could
have a
work
responsive
together.
record.
And then we could have worked together to create a good policy.
Yeah. So Ray, that's one of the good things, right? It brings to light that an agency may have a gap somewhere, right? Oh, maybe we do need this policy. That's what it's supposed to do, not any of this. So yes, please continue to make these FOIL requests. Again, I'm here to help. Don't get discouraged, especially with the town of Hempstead. Yeah, that's really it. Don't give up.
Oh, thank you very much. And thank you, everybody. And we hope to do this again. But if anybody has any interest in learning more about this, please reach out to any of us. We're all accessible. And Allison, thank you so much for your expertise and everything you've, and Felix and Diane and everybody,
Thank you,
Amanda,
Ray, and
Carl,
Ray.
everybody I missed. Yeah.
Ray,
Yeah.
I just want to encourage you, maybe the next podcast, you can have Allison, just you and Allison, and teach people how to foil. Go through the process on the website, all of that, you know.
I mean, I love that, because I think that my interests and so forth, Val. But I think that there's so much that can be done. I think if we organize our efforts, sort of in 2025, we have so many tools. It's such a great time to be alive. I don't want to go on a tangent, but with all the issues we have, we've got so much technology and so much that we can do to unite the tools that we have. Even to be able to do this, I don't even know where everybody is. I mean, we're in different states and different places, and we're able to connect. If we use the tools that we have in 2025, soon to be 2026, I think it amplifies our power, and if we use our brains on top of that, then we're almost unstoppable in the interest of transparency. And then where it takes us from there, that becomes the fun part. We may see things differently, but the question as to what's available and the information that government's holding back from us, they have an obligation to release it. They should do so. And
Oh
for
God,
those,
I got one last thing I have to share. Ray Aurora for something. Whatever you want to run for, Ray. Run
Well,
for
listen,
something. Run,
my
Ray.
my friend Nick wrote for governor, and I would love nothing better than that. I think I could do a better job. But anyway, listen, thank you so much. I appreciate that, Val, and thank you everybody, and I hope to see you guys soon. And happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Early Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and so forth. But thank you so much to everybody, and we hope to do it again soon. I hope anybody commenting, it's on Facebook, so people don't watch this live necessarily, but they may watch it afterwards. If you have a question, please reach out to Allison, Valerie, Diane, Carl, Felix. Thank you again, Felix, for everything you do for the town of Hempstead and the residents. Of course, Joe Schnablo, we're all big fans of. So thanks so very much, everybody.
Thank
Have a good
you.
night.
Thanks, everyone.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Ray.
Thank you.